Hi everyone, how you all doing? Welcome to yet another episode of ARA, Anxiety Recovery with Albright. If you're new here or you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Medley Albright and I use my own recovery from severe sensitization, severe anxiety and chronic depression to help others who are still struggling. So whether you're struggling with OCD, depression, social anxiety, health anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, panic disorder, any type of anxiety disorder, you are in the right place. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed yet, I would urge you to watch this video up to the end. If you feel like this video is valuable, if you feel like you want to see more of this content on your timeline, then kindly hit that subscription button. Otherwise, let's get into the video. So a couple of times you guys always hear me talk about anxiety, the causes of anxiety. One of the main causes of anxiety is stress. A stressful life event happened, a traumatic life event happened, you stayed in that period for a while and it developed into an anxiety disorder. For someone else, it is a panic attack. They had a panic attack, they worried about having another panic attack, they treated themselves as fragile, and boom, they were in the disordered cycle of anxiety. For other people, it is weed, marijuana, and that's what we want to talk about in this video. If you're struggling with marijuana induced anxiety, you are just having fun taking your thing and you started having this intense heart rate, you started feeling like you're in 2D, you started having this intense feelings of unreality. You try to explain to people what is happening, no one really gets you. Even after finishing the act of even after having fun with stoning, you still felt high after days. So that's what we want to talk about. If you got your anxiety from marijuana, stay tuned up to the end of this video. So in uni, I was a stoner. I hope my parents are not watching this video. I'm gonna block them after this. So when someone is stoning or when someone is using alcohol, they are having stresses in their life that they don't know how to deal with. So they resort to alcoholism, they resort to smoking weed. So I used to smoke weed. I just used to. My best friend was a stoner, and let me tell you something. If you're working with thieves, the next thief is gonna be you. If you're working with alcoholics, the next alcoholic is gonna be you. So I was working with stoners. The next stoner was me. So when we used to stone, I just used to take one puff. I used to take one puff just for fun. Then I remember a day I had really intense anxiety and I was in this support group on Facebook. I always tell you guys to avoid support groups. Support groups is made up of people from all over, people who are struggling with everything. So this particular person, she was struggling with bipolar, and she made a comment there that maybe if you take marijuana, your anxiety will calm down. So me, I took a lot of it. I started feeling this intense heart rate. I started feeling this feelings of unreality. I started having noises in my head. I was just like, I'm going crazy. I'm going psychotic. I'm gonna die from this, because I didn't understand what was happening. And I remember that day we were in my best friend's house. I started walking outside. It was raining. I started walking outside. I was only wearing socks. So she was telling me, Albert, come back to the house. You're gonna alert the police. And this thing had blew up on me. I started having this intense heart rate, like my heart is gonna pop out of my chest. I started having this intense intrusive thoughts. I started having these intense feelings of unreality. I used to have them because at that time when I was taking that weed, I used to have them, but not as intense as when I took that weed. That is the last time I took weed. Weed is not my thing. Just the way I felt at that particular moment, I was just like, no, this thing is not my thing. So maybe you're that kind of person. Maybe you didn't have symptoms of anxiety prior, but the day you took marijuana is the day you started having these feelings of unreality. You started feeling like you're in 2D. You started having anxiety in general. And let me tell you guys, weed is not, I can't say weed is bad or good, because people do take weed. They have taken it for years. You just had a bad experience with weed. Weed was not the problem. Weed was a trigger. The same way people have a panic attack when taking coffee, the same way people just have a panic attack out of the blue. I had a panic attack when I was selling groceries at that time. So when I was going to get my groceries at a nearby homestead, I had a panic attack. So a panic attack can appear out of nowhere. It's just that you had that anxious energy within, and the weed, the marijuana, triggered the anxious energy. So the weed, I can't say that weed is bad or inherently good. It's just people do take weed. People have taken it for years. It's just that you had a bad experience with weed, and as a result, you started having those symptoms of anxiety. And the panic attack was not the problem. The weed was not bad. What was the problem is how you reacted to that panic attack. And I can't blame anyone. Everyone of us, the first time you experience those anxiety symptoms, you reacted with fear, because those symptoms are scary. They suck. So what you always do, you start treating yourself as fragile. You are afraid of having another panic attack. And when you worry about having another panic attack, the way you reacted to having another panic attack, you got another panic attack, and boom, now you are in this disordered cycle of anxiety. You're having the physical symptoms, the intrusive thoughts, the feelings of unreality. And one thing about people who get anxiety from weed, it's you shy away from talking about it, because just the way weed is, people in some countries it has been illegalized. In some time back in Kenya, there was a presidential candidate who was vying, and in his manifesto, his main agenda was legalizing weed. And I was just like, no, I was not going to support that candidate, because studies shows that too much intake of weed, it overstimulates the amygdala. Amygdala is a part of your brain which is the fear center. It is the one responsible for you being in that state. When the amygdala is, because amygdala is the part of the brain that is responsible for releasing stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. So when it is overstimulated, the fight or flight response is activated. And when the fight or flight response is activated, you start having these symptoms of anxiety. So when he came up with that, like when his main agenda was legalizing weed, I was just like, so probably many people are gonna get panic attacks from weed. They're gonna get anxiety from weed, because too much intake of weed overstimulates the amygdala. And when the amygdala is overstimulated, the fight or flight response is activated. And when the fight or flight response is activated, you are now having anxiety symptoms. One of the most common ways to fall into the anxiety cycle is through weed. I have coached people who got into the anxiety cycle through weed, and it's not like, and once they recover, some of them go back to weed, and some of them just like, no, yeah, I'm not going back to this thing. It led me into the anxiety cycle. So it just generally depends. And I'm not saying like weed is not the problem. You just had a bad experience with weed, and you had a panic attack. And when you had a panic attack, you do know how to react. Just the same way people have a panic attack out of the blue, you don't know how to react to the panic attack, and boom, you are in the disordered cycle of anxiety. One of the fears with marijuana-induced anxiety is that you always think you're gonna go psychotic. You always think you're gonna lose your mind from this. And let me tell you something. Once you have been to the doctor and they tell you this is anxiety, it's not psychosis. If it would have been psychosis, they would have told you that, okay, this is psychosis. But it's because of anxiety, you're having these panic attacks, you're having these feelings of unreality, no one really understands. You tend to think that you messed up with your brain. You did something, one day they are gonna blow up on you and you're gonna be crazy, no. Anxiety brought by marijuana is anxiety. It doesn't lead into something else. It doesn't lead into psychosis. It doesn't lead into schizophrenia. It's just anxiety. What happened to an individual when they were smoking that weed is that, as I've said, they had a bad experience with weed and it developed into a panic attack. So they started being self-aware of themselves. They started noticing symptoms. They started noticing every change in their body. They started noticing, because this panic attack has made them fearful, because as you all know, panic attacks are very scary. So you think, okay, what if I get that panic attack again? You treat yourself as fragile. What if you worry about having another panic attack? And when you worry about having another panic attack, you get another panic attack. And boom, now you're stuck in the disordered cycle of anxiety. Carl Jung says that what you focus on grows. So you focused on whatever you're feeling, you focused on a panic attack, it grows and even it becomes bigger. So you focused on the panic attack, you focused on how you're feeling, and boom, you started having other symptoms. As you all know, anxiety thrives on fear and attention. So the moment you started giving the way you feel attention, you are fearful of how you feel, you are having other anxiety symptoms. And it doesn't matter what caused your anxiety. Even if yours was caused by trauma, even if yours was caused by a medical condition, a surgery, stress, you just had a panic attack and boom, you are in the disordered cycle of anxiety. Even if it was caused marijuana, the way to recovery is the same. It's anxiety. It's anxiety for everyone. So whatever caused you, whatever made you be in the anxiety cycle does not matter. The response is the same to whatever caused your anxiety, and you can recover. You are not unique because yours was caused by weed. No, it's anxiety and the response is the same. If you have watched this video up to this point, make sure to like, a thumbs up for this video, share if you find this video is valuable and you want other people to see it, share, comment. If there is anything that you feel like you want me to talk about, comment down below. And I also want to know what caused your anxiety. Was it stress? Was it a traumatic life event? Was it a medical condition? Was it weed? Can you kindly comment down below and subscribe? If you subscribe, it helps the channel grow and you will get more of these videos. Remember, I have a mentorship program. If you feel like you have been in the anxiety cycle for a long time and you want it gone, you want to fasten your recovery, you want to speed up your recovery, you don't want to figure out everything on your own, you don't know the mindset to have towards anxiety, you don't know how to respond, the symptoms are just, anxiety is all you think about. The symptoms are there with you 24/7, and you want to know what is happening, why you're having these symptoms, and the method that I use to recover from anxiety naturally. No breathing techniques, no coping techniques, no medication, no supplements. I tried all those things and they didn't work. The way that I recovered from anxiety is the natural way. So if you are interested in overcoming anxiety once and for all permanently, message me using this WhatsApp me using this number, or email me using this number. I help people overcome anxiety disorders permanently. Otherwise, let's meet on the next video. Bye.